Hi, I'm GM Matthew Sadler.
And I'm WIM Natasha Regan. I hope that all our viewers are feeling very well today. This continues our series in the English Opening, and it's a great attacking game by AlphaZero, who plays white against Stockfish as black. And Stockfish tries an unusual move in English, which is 6 bishop d6, and AlphaZero replies with an over-the-board novelty 7 knight f3. The knights get exchanged, and then AlphaZero pushes its central pawns, getting a wall of central pawns. Stockfish responds on the queenside, pushing the queenside pawns, and AlphaZero turns it into a kingside attack. I'm hoping that you enjoy this game.
Yeah, features the rook's pawn heavily as well, so all of our favourite themes are in there. Let's have a look at the game. Okay, let's have a look at this game. So, AlphaZero starts with c4. That was the move.
And that was the only move that it was told to play. So we specified one c4, and after that, the two engines are making it up.
So e5, that's something that Stockfish always likes to play. g3, most accurate move order. Knight f6 and bishop g2. Why is this an accurate move order? Well, we discussed this in a previous video as well. You just keep the knight on b1 so that because as soon as white plays knight c3, black plays bishop b4. So if you delay the development of the knight on b1, then only when black plays knight c6 do you play knight c3. And then if black plays bishop b4, you can play this move knight d5. And now knight takes d5, c takes d5 will hit the knight on c6. It's just one of those little opening wrinkles. So Stockfish played castles, not the most common move, but still a pretty popular move. a3 from AlphaZero. And now an interesting moment.
Stockfish plays bishop d6. And you'd think that's blocking in its own d-pawn, which it is.
Indeed, I mean but it's one of those things that the black players have been trying, actually in a variety of systems, even in sort of Rai Lopez positions. They've been trying this. The idea being that it's only a temporary thing. The bishop retreats to that square. Maybe you'll play something like rook e8, bishop f8, and then afterwards you can play d6. But in the meantime, putting the bishop on there has some advantages. For example, if we put the bishop on c5, it can get hit by b4, as actually happened in a couple of other games we've looked at. So bishop d6, interesting idea.
White players here have tended to favour the move knight c3 to avoid being exchanged. AlphaZero played a novelty, an over-the-board novelty. It actually looks like quite a natural move, knight f3.
Yes, that's right. I mean, knight c3 is, I think actually that Caruana played this move as well. It looks a little bit weird, but it's basically based around the fact that black, of course, has blocked in his d pawn by playing bishop d6. So white says, okay, well, in that case, since black's a bit gummed up, I'll avoid exchanges. Quite an interesting idea, but AlphaZero is just much more direct here and plays knight f3. And now Stockfish played knight takes d5, and that's a novelty even in correspondence play. Correspondence, I think we've seen a5 and we've seen e4. I think that's also been played, but knight d5 is very sensible. C takes d5, knight d4, knight takes d4, e takes d4.
So all the knights are already off the board, and we're now going to see a phase of the game where lots of play with pawns and the bishops.
Exactly. It's I mean, I always these are quite typical English positions for this sort of for the English four knights variation, and I always felt looking at these from the white side that they were just a little bit dull, that there wasn't much active play in them. But then I saw a fantastic game by Magnus Carlsen, actually against Anish Giri, Shamkir 2019. Do take a look at that one. It really features some, I think you'd say, some pretty AlphaZero style play in there. But both that game and AlphaZero's games in the English, really convinced me that, there's a lot more play in these positions without knights than I'd ever realised. Now, in a previous game that we saw, when we got this structure, Black's bishop in that game was over on b6 or a7, so well out of the way. And then AlphaZero moved its rook's pawn all the way up to expose some dark square weaknesses. You know, with the dark squared bishop so far away on the queen side, that's a very sensible thing to do. Here the bishop's a little bit closer. I mean, it can come to e5 or e7 and f6. So black's got a lot more defense of the dark squares. So in this position, AlphaZero holds back on its rook's pawn and plays the move castles. And here, actually, one of white's ideas here is to play b4 and bishop b2, lining up on the d4 pawn. So I've also played a lot of engine games between Stockfish and I think the Fat Fritz engine, which is a neural net, inspired by AlphaZero. And all of those engines preferred the move that Stockfish played in the game, which was a5, just to stop b4. And here AlphaZero starts on the plan that will eventually lead it to victory.
By the way, AlphaZero thinks it's got a slight edge in this position.
Yes, that's right. Something around, I think it was 57.8%. I think that was the expected score here. But here AlphaZero plays e4. The idea is actually pretty simple. We'll have a look here because I felt, looking back at the game afterwards, that this was a crucial moment, and I felt that black maybe could have improved its play here. But here, Stockfish played very consistently and played the move a4. So clamping down on the white queen side and getting ready to start moving its queenside pawns forward. And so AlphaZero does the same, but on the king side.
Keeps those pawns all coming.
Exactly, and it's well, of course, the advantage of advancing pawns on the centre and king side is that well, the target is there; it's the black king. Whereas Stockfish advancing on the queen side has got less of a goal to reach at the end. So here we are, e5. Amazing how these pawns just get rolling. I think it's the absence of knights that makes it quite hard to stop them. It's
quite geometric, this position, isn't it?
No, exactly.
As a mathematician, it looks really nice.
So queen e2 here, and now Stockfish decides that this is getting rather worrying. Got to stake some sort of claim on the king side, and plays the move f5. AlphaZero plays e6 and Stockfish plays b5. And actually you can see that what AlphaZero is doing on the king side, Stockfish is trying to do on the queen side. So this move c4 is coming quite close.
AlphaZero looks a bit further ahead with the pawn already at e6.
Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah, I mean, I think AlphaZero has definitely got a lead in time here.
And, but then how are you going to open up the positions some more?
Exactly. And here AlphaZero plays a very interesting idea. I thought it was just part of the old standard AlphaZero using this technique in every single position, but it's got a very specific, slightly different idea in this position. So AlphaZero played h4. And after Stockfish's queen e8, AlphaZero was very careful to play this move h5.
Yeah, so we noticed that AlphaZero's cutting out the possibility of Stockfish playing h5 and blocking that pawn.
Exactly, and actually in a game between Fat Fritz and Stockfish, I think Fat Fritz played rook b1 here, or played some move that was less determined and driven than AlphaZero's play. And Stockfish ended up playing g6 and h5, blocking the king side. And it was very hard for white to do anything. So here AlphaZero is very careful, plays h5. If black ever plays g6 at some stage, then AlphaZero will also be able to open the h file on the king side, which is obviously to its advantage. And after bishop b7, bishop d2, rook a7, g4, AlphaZero starts opening lines on the king side. So at this stage, AlphaZero is getting very confident. It has quite a big expected score here.
76% expected score.
Exactly. I mean, that's getting above equal parity between a draw and a win. So Stockfish noticed the pawn on d5, slightly weak, and tried to pick that one off. But actually, AlphaZero didn't worry about that at all. Queen g4. Rook f6 and then rook f3. Gives away this pawn on d5. Rook g3 threatens mate.
So what's white got for the pawn here?
Well, I'll just play one more move, f5, and then we can look at it. Well, what has white got in actual fact? Quite a big bind, first of all. These pawn on e6, pawn on f5 tends to cut the black position in half. And also, black's big problem is that he's got a rook on f6 as a blockading piece. And well, the heavier the piece, the less solid your defence is, because it's it's very easy to drive it away. I mean, here Stockfish played h6 to stop white from playing h5 to h6 himself. But after rook f1, if you look at the variations that both AlphaZero and Stockfish were looking at, white's just going to aim to reroute this bishop via e1 to h4, attack the rook on f6, and then that rook on f6 will not be able to stay where it is. So I mean, there's some big and very easy plans for white ahead there, and Stockfish's evaluation really starts to plummet, and here it decides that it's time for desperate action actually. So it plays the move c5 to c4. So actually giving up a pawn just to try and open up some lines, but it's not particularly satisfactory. And actually AlphaZero takes a very easy and practical decision here. It just starts hoovering up pawns. So first of all, it makes use of, there's even no need to put the bishop round to h4. It just puts it on this massive a1, h8 diagonal.
Yeah, all of white's pieces look really nice here.
They look fantastic here, don't they? Queen f4. Rook c5, so Stockfish says, well, okay, if you want my rook, then take it. But AlphaZero, it doesn't really believe in its rooks. Often willing to give up, a rook for the exchange. A rook for a centrally placed knight with on an outpost. Always willing to give up a rook for that. And here
that bishop's so good anyway. That
bishop's so good. You can always take the rook later. So let's just line up, put 3 pieces on the g file. So Stockfish, well, just keeps on trying to maintain parity, and then AlphaZero just starts grabbing pawns. So already 2 pawns. 2 pawns in a fantastic position. That's looking pretty good. So d5, and here queen c6, bishop b6 check, king h1. This is all, it's essentially just winning. Here Stockfish tries its last little tactical possibility. I mean, if you take the rook, you're going to give actually mate with queen h3 check and then queen f1. But AlphaZero has its own ideas here and plays queen e8 and this move queen g6 check. And in fact, after queen takes g6, h takes g6.
Then Stockfish announces that it is going to be mated in 24 moves.
Indeed. And starts with king g8 and then this move bishop b4. And I think if you've seen Game Changer, you'll really recognise the scenario that we point out a number of games. Black's king just completely kept in a box, a pawn on g6, what the great YouTuber King's Crusher would call a thorn pawn, a diagonal piece stopping the black king from moving. The bishop on b4 stops the king from getting out. And we're either going to play e7 and queen the pawn, or we're going to bring this rook round to the f file and into f8 and mate. So that was the game. I liked it quite a lot. I thought it was interesting strategy. From a position which I thought was a little bit static and dull with both knights exchanged. Well, AlphaZero just powered through on the through the centre, and I like this move h4 to h5 very much. As a way of stopping the kingside from getting blocked before trying to get it open. I thought this was very nice. But just to go back to the opening, because of course AlphaZero, as so often, makes this look pretty much like a forced win. What would black actually try and do? Well, what I was actually thinking was that black should be trying to play the move c6 takes d5 in order to try and break up that white centre. And I thought that the best, most accurate way of doing it was to play the move bishop e7. And after d3, then to play the move c6. And the idea is you want to play c takes d5, e takes d5. For example, if you just play a normal move like h4, which is not bad, you'll play cd5, ed5, play d6, and then move the bishop round to f6 afterwards, and just try and develop and claim symmetrical structure. Black's probably fine. I mean, I think in those sort of positions, if anyone's got a little bit of initiative, it's going to be white, but black should be able to hold. And I saw a few games like this when I played the engines against each other, in which parity was held. But there's one interesting idea which I liked a lot, and this was the idea of playing Queen A4 for white. So, if c takes d5, you could actually look at playing Queen d4, and then, you're actually going to get the centre open, which is pretty pleasant. And how does black defend this d4 pawn? If you play bishop f6, then you've got this move d6, which is going to be rather unpleasant.
Another thorn pawn.
Another thorn pawn, indeed. What black could do is to play the move c5, but then of course you've stopped black from breaking up the centre. Your queen on a4 is a little bit odd, but one idea is to just play queen c2, and then we're going to carry on with f4 and e5. Compared to the game, white's wasted a little bit of time, but the basic structure is still pretty good. Actually, what Fat Fritz came up with in one of the games, which I thought was very interesting, was to play this move b4. Ooh. And after c takes b4, the move bishop f4, threatening d6. And after bishop c5, we played d6 anyway. B takes a3, it's a double pawn sacrifice, and then e5. And for the 2 pawns, you gained an awful lot of space in the centre, and you're also, blocking in the bishop on c8. And white's idea actually is to play bishop c1 takes a3. It's like a Benko Gambit in a way.
That bishop's not coming out anytime soon, is it?
Well, not immediately. It's going to take a little bit of work from black. So, it was, the games were quite balanced and very sharp, but, very interesting idea, I thought. But I think this would have been the best way for black to try and fight against this idea, because as it turned out in the game, with both sides, both sides pursuing their own plans, Stockfish on the queen's side, AlphaZero on the king's side, it just looked so much quicker, so much more dangerous for AlphaZero. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed that game. I found it quite an interesting little game there. It's, we've got a few more planned, on the English, and, we've also got a number of other interesting, video series planned. So, do keep, watching. If you haven't subscribed to our channel,
subscribe now.
Exactly. And, if you haven't, got Game Changer,
then get Game Changer. You will enjoy it.
Absolutely guaranteed. So, and of course, a lot of the things that we talk about, are explained in a great deal of depth in Game Changer, all the different themes and the different ideas. So, even though these are new games, that haven't appeared in Game Changer, a lot of the things, that AlphaZero does, of course, are explained there in great detail. So there we are. Anyway, hope you enjoy it, and keep watching, subscribe, and be informed, and keep well, of course, as well. Just at this difficult time. Okay, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you for watching.